Hello everyone, welcome to this month's edition of the Influential Times. As per usual, I am joined by my co-host Alistair Wheat. And
Hello.
we are going to talk about a couple of the big stories from the last month or so. So obviously it's been August, silly season as they call it in the journalism profession, but we have got a few stories that have caught our eye. So Alistair, you wanted to kick off with a big announcement in the world of LinkedIn.
Yes, so actually back in January, LinkedIn announced that they were going to be combining LinkedIn Elevate with LinkedIn Pages. And now in just the last couple of weeks, they've been rolling out these new features. Some of these new features. So this is some changes on LinkedIn Pages. And the top change is that they've got a tab, which is the My Company tab. So if you go to LinkedIn and your profile shows that you're part of a company, you can very easily then go and see what your company has been doing on LinkedIn, and also what your colleagues have been posting, what posts from your colleagues have been doing well and getting engagement, that sort of thing. They've also got a new events tab, which is going to have visibility about events that the company is running, and people giving information to people how they can register for those. I'm guessing for the next year at least, but it's pretty much going to be online stuff still for the foreseeable future. There's also going to be more information for page admins about the followers that they've got for their company pages. So going beyond the metrics that were there before. I think this whole change is kind of part of a trend, really, because many of the influencer advocacy platforms that have been moving in this direction have introduced similar kind of combination features, bringing together employee advocacy and internal communications. So people like Dynamic Signal and Smart and other influencer advocacy platforms who started off really just there as a way for marketers to coordinate their employees sharing content online and promoting the brand online. They have really moved into the employee communications space in a big way. So they are now allowing internal spaces for employees to kind of coordinate with each other. Also really just following on from, I suppose, what Slack did, which was kind of socializing the internal communications in businesses. So LinkedIn, I think, are looking at this and thinking, yeah, we should get in on the act as well. And this announcement that they put out has very much been done with sort of the pandemic in the background, that employees are working from home, they're cut off from having these connections with each other. So why not use a social platform that they're using already a lot in the form of LinkedIn to then bring in some more employee communications and better event coordination. So I think it's a very smart move from LinkedIn. It'll be interesting to see how the employee advocacy platforms adapt to what LinkedIn's doing, and maybe they will have more opportunity to focus really on the external advocacy part of this. But it's, I think, going to be good to see as well how LinkedIn's changes can allow marketers to better communicate what's going on with their staff and what other people within the business are doing, so that can then link into this advocacy work, which is more than just sharing articles. It's also talking to influencers and other external subject matter experts. So obviously that's the area that we focus on. So quite an exciting change. It's going to be interesting to see what else LinkedIn roll out, because Elevate, I think, is going to be kind of shut down by the end of the year. So there's probably going to be more functionality coming out between now and December from LinkedIn to bring these two previously separate functions more together. So that was my first story. Some interesting news from LinkedIn. Back to you, Jack.
Yeah, I think the interesting question is going to be whether it kind of continues the existing trend that you sometimes see when you get an employee advocacy platform, which is that some people are really engaged and you still have this kind of large unengaged mass, and the investment and the time sort of continues in the hope that you can engage that wider group, or whether you sort of continue the trend that the people, your employees who are active on LinkedIn anyway, use this functionality, or whether it is the extra step of having to go into a separate platform to find things to post on LinkedIn that has been holding people back. So it'll be interesting to see if that sort of closes the gap and maybe.
Yeah, and one particular thing I'm hoping is going to change is that often these advocacy platforms, it's like several people are getting the same article and just pumping it out. And actually, it's more effective sometimes for one person to kind of come out with a story, and then the peer group to engage that story and to kind of get a conversation started. And especially, linked with LinkedIn's algorithm, that tends to just mean that actually more people see it than lots of separate people just doing their own little bits. If more people can kind of coalesce around one story and have a really good conversation on that, that's probably going to get more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, maybe that's the direction LinkedIn are thinking, or maybe they want more different people posting. I'm not really sure, because obviously they want everyone to post to keep the platform active and lively. So yeah, slightly clashing incentive structures there. Kind of on the other side of the fence, over in the sort of more consumer focused side, I had a similar story. TikTok have announced they're kind of rolling out a marketing partner program for advertisers. This is on the back of some of the self-serve tools. I think really that's just kind of bubbling away in the background, really, is seeing whether they can consolidate their, the fact that they obviously have a hold on a young audience. It's very popular. They've got this very clever algorithm I was reading this week that actually one of the things they do is they show 100 posts. Every post gets showed to at least 100 people, and then what happens within those 100 views sort of dictates it. So they've obviously got some clever stuff going on there, because it is very responsive to your kind of how long you view things, how much you like it. But I think the question will be, they're doing all these moves that you would expect to see as you try and monetize it. It'll be interesting to see if a sort of Instagram type or a YouTube type system takes over for kind of how content is monetized. You can see them trying to sort of centralize it a bit more directly and kind of having creator funds and things like that. So it's kind of interesting seeing how that unfolds, given that we know B2B sometimes ends up a little downstream from that. We'll kind of see whether, the platform intervening directly and earlier will make a difference to how things operate in the rest of the influencer ecosystem. Instagram sort of tried to throw an elbow by launching Reels, and it will be, that's worked before for the Zuckerberg empire. Buy them or copy the features is usually the kind of the tactic, but it'll be interesting to see whether they can kind of quite make that work in this case, because it's, as I said, it's about more than the functionality. And then my second story is really just something I think for viewers to check out afterwards. Have a look at this video. It's kind of someone making an innovative use of the duet function, again on TikTok, and basically asking for contributions from their audience. So in this case, it's just someone he's a cooking influencer. He kind of just posts short videos of recipes. And he's actually asking people just to answer a series of questions about a food culture that they're interested in or that they know about. And it got me thinking about how sort of content can be more collaborative. We have all of the ability to do this, and yet sometimes I think we maybe as marketers can fall down a little bit and are still stuck on broadcast mode. So something to watch and kind of think about how we can use, polling, interactive content, and just generally thinking about kind of asking more questions of our audience. And I think influencers, it's a place, it's a space influencers can occupy quite well, and maybe we'll find easier to occupy than the brands themselves. So I think something to kind of look out for is how you can do this kind of almost remix kind of style content, where you create a base video, question, whatever it is, and then let users sort of populate with their own answers, because you can partly outsource the content creation, but also just get an interesting conversation and get something that'll get a lot of engagement if you can come up with the right seed to kind of kick it off. So something to think about there. And then to close, Alistair, you have a story on the equality and diversity front in
So in the last couple of chats, we've talked about, first of all, the influencer pay gap Instagram account, how that highlighted gaps between, I think it was particularly looking at like black and white influencers. And then we've talked about, as well, about how some influencers are unionizing on both sides of the Atlantic. So I was quite encouraged to see a story recently of an agency actually really trying to do something proactively to try and address this diversity gap. And so this is MSL, who've got this agency influencer service called Fluency, which is a mix of their own sort of software that they've built and actual typical agency support services to kind of work with the influencers. And so they want to get 1,000 what they're calling diverse influencers. They don't specify exactly what that means, but I'm assuming hopefully it means a mix of all sorts of different types of influencers, and they're then going to sponsor them to go through the influencer academy to get trained on how to presumably create good sort of multimedia content, how to use social effectively. So it's really great to see them actually doing something proactive to equip and help some of these up-and-coming diverse influencers to get on the radar. And presumably they will also then be putting some of these people forward to brands to start helping them get their first influencer contract. So yeah, actually really encouraging to see an agency really do something proactive to change this, and hopefully other agencies will follow suit. So that's my last story. And just a little bonus one from me. I did a little podcast with Jason Falls, who's a great guy and knows a lot about marketing, and we had a really good chat discussing whether or not influence marketing fits more into advertising or public relations. So we'll put the link for that one. I'm not going to steal any of Jason and my thunder on that one. I'll leave you to listen to the podcast. Hopefully it's interesting. But that was it for me. Anything for you to add, Jack?
No, that's all the news that's fit to print. So we will see you again next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.